Happy Thursday, East Alabama and everywhere. We welcome you into Southern Sports Now. I'm Chase Robinson. Glad you are joining us this morning as we have 1 hour to spend together to talk all things sports, and we will do that. We'll have you covered on the college football front, college baseball, Braves baseball. I'm really excited about our guest today, Andy Wittry from On3 Sports. He is the NIL and Sports Business Reporter. So we're going to dive into NIL. We talked a little bit yesterday about the players wanting to boycott the NCAA video game. Coaches and administrators are actually in Washington, D.C. this week trying to talk NIL legislation. So we'll dive into all things NIL with Andy Wittry coming up at 10:20. We invite you, of course, to interact with us, to join us on our Facebook and YouTube. That's where you can watch us on the East Alabama Now YouTube channel. You can watch us on the East Alabama Now Facebook page. That is where we are streaming live. Check out our Twitter at EAN_sports, and that is where you can get a link to watch the show. And so those are the ways you can check us out here on this Thursday. We've been counting you down to football. We'll get to those in just a minute, but I want to tease a new segment we have. We started it last week, but we'll do it again tomorrow, and we want to give you an opportunity to kind of ask the questions, drive the segment of the show with our Southern Sports Now mailbag. So how do you submit these questions? Well, there's several ways. You see them on the screen right now. You can send us an email, eansports23@gmail.com. You can send us a message on Facebook on the East Alabama Now Facebook page. You can send us a direct message on Twitter at EAN_sports. Those are the ways you can submit the questions, but we will do this every Friday. So go ahead right now, get your questions in while you're thinking about it. Maybe you're watching live. You can drop your question in the comments right now. So that's a good way to do it as well. Just drop it in there right now. We'll get to those tomorrow on the show, but certainly looking forward to opening up the mailbag once again here on Southern Sports Now. And again, we'll do this every Friday on the show. But let's do our top 5 headlines of the day as we start out each and every day. So let's look at our headlines. Top headline, Braves get the win over the Mets last night, 7-5. Good comeback win. Neck and neck game, 2 really good pitchers in the ball game, but it was Michael Harris hit the go-ahead home run in the bottom of the 8th for the Braves to walk away with that much-needed win over the Mets. They'll wrap up the series tonight, but the Braves have the series in hand. NBA Finals action. Nuggets take Game 3, that should say 109-94, as Heat took Game 2, Nuggets Game 3, so Nuggets have a 2-1 lead over the Heat now in the NBA Finals. So we said yesterday this could be a big momentum game. We'll see if the Nuggets got the momentum winning the game on the road last night, but Nuggets take Game 3. Oklahoma wins Game 1 of the College World Series there in Oklahoma City. They took down Florida State 5-1. So the Sooners get Game 1 win. We'll see if they can finish it out tonight against Florida State in Game 2 here in this best-of-3 series between Oklahoma and Florida State. Really good softball. Oklahoma, though, just has been dominant all season long and really for several years now. Back in the Women's College World Series Finals and win Game 1. Big 12 exploring options of a bowl game in Mexico. Now, this would have to wait and start in 2026. We see the bowl game in the Bahamas now. So Big 12 seeing how they could get a team to a bowl game in Mexico. So that will be interesting to follow. And also what will be interesting to follow is moves that the Big 12 will be making here in the coming days of maybe we see some new teams in that conference. Some realignment talk is upcoming there in the Big 12. Maybe some Pac-12 teams moving over to the Big 12. And the Alabama Sports Writers Association All-State Softball Team was announced today. We've got some local names on that list we will tell you about in just a little bit. But the ASWA All-State Softball is got some East Alabama talent in it, including a Coach of the Year in one classification. So we'll get to that next segment. But congratulations to all of those ladies that are on the All-State Softball team. Worked very hard this season and were rewarded for it here by the media. So we've got a lot to cover today. We'll dive into that. We'll get to some Braves baseball. Alabama basketball arena. What's going on with it? We'll talk about that. Again, Andy Wittry will join us at 10:20. So keep it locked in right here on Southern Sports Now. We'll take a break and be back in just a minute.
We are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
EAN Sports is proud to bring you the best, most informative local sports content, and we want your help to be able to do that. If you have a story idea, a tip for our sportscast, or even a highlight clip you want to see on EAN Local Sports, send us an email, eansports23@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @EAN_sports, or you can send it to the EAN News Facebook page. EAN Sports, bringing you the local sports happening in your community.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
If you see some interesting weather phenomenon in your backyard here in East Alabama, send that to us. We would love to hear from you. Send that to us at the email address you see on your screen or through Facebook at EAN News.
Ted's Floors and Beyond brings you this segment of Southern Sports Now. Ted's Floors and Beyond. They've partnered with Welborn Cabinet, so they not only offer you all your flooring needs, but they offer you a complete kitchen or bath makeover. That includes cabinets, countertops, flooring, backsplashes, and tile showers. As far as flooring goes, they've got all you need with hardwood, laminate, carpet, tile, and luxury vinyl. They offer 0% interest financing for 12 months and free in-home estimates. And with your flooring installations, they do offer a lifetime warranty. They're locally owned and operated. Go by and see Ted's Floors and Beyonds there on Highway 431 in Anniston, right before you get to Sachs High School there, Sachs Elementary School. So go by and see Ted's. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment of Southern Sports Now. Atlanta Braves last night able to get a good win thanks to Michael Harris. His go-ahead home run in the bottom of the 8th sealed the deal for the Atlanta Braves as we watched some video from last night's game between these division rivals. You know, this has really turned into a rivalry between the Braves and the Mets. One, because it's the divisional series, but there's been some all-out wars between these two teams as of late, especially in the last couple of years when the Mets have kind of controlled the regular season. But when it comes down to it, the Mets really just aren't able to finish the season strong. The Braves are. And these two teams are kind of opposite, and we've talked about kind of the difference in last summer and this summer, the way the Braves have kind of been in control this year. The Mets were in control last year. Braves ended up winning. But for the Braves to go out and get this series win, they've won the series, they finish it up tonight, is huge to be able to walk away with this win. A couple of bombs last night for the Atlanta Braves. You see there Sean Murphy hitting one out. That was big for Atlanta and for Sean Murphy. But offense looked great last night. And, you know, Michael Harris, a guy that has been inconsistent this year. It's a good way to put it. He's had some really good hits. He's come through several times for this club, but overall he just hasn't had what he had last year, especially towards the end of last year. He was a crucial piece on offense, and yes, he's been really good this year, but he hasn't been as consistent with on-base hitting. But here you see his go-ahead home run last night. So that was big for Michael Harris to hit that one out, and got the crowd loving it there inside Truist Park. And again, right there in the sweet spot for Michael Harris to get that home run and to win it for the Braves. So that was big for him. Maybe a confidence booster there for Michael Harris II. But he is impressive. He's a great young baseball player. He's one of those guys that you keep him in the Braves organization, I think he could be the face of the organization one day. He's that good. He's got a powerful swing. He's good in the outfield. But for him to get that done last night, after being questionable the last few weeks, that was big for Michael Harris. I think he's figured it out. We'll see if he can stay with it consistently. As far as pitching goes, Charlie Morton on the mound last night, and he had a good start. I mean, he was, again, up against a Mets offense that has been up and down this year, honestly. Their pitching has been much better than their hitting, but still, Charlie Morton did a great job of facing them. He's been a guy that he's quietly had a good start to the year, but he's had a really good start to this year, and hopefully he can keep that up. A lot of games left to play, a lot of starts left for Charlie Morton, but if he can do what he's doing now, whether he's able to get 5, 6, maybe on a good day 7 innings, that's going to be big for the Braves. Last night specifically, he was able to get some key strikeouts at some key moments, and I think that is what really helped him last night. He had 5 strikeouts, not quite able to get to that 5-inning mark. He went 4 2/3, giving up 4 hits and 4 runs, but his pitch selection has been good, but the Mets offense really came out looking good last night. Colin McHugh came in, did fairly well. Yates had a good night last night. A couple of walks, but did get a strikeout. A.J. Minter finished it out last night with a strikeout, which is always good to see a guy like him who also has struggled this year come in and make something happen. But good stuff there from the Braves last night as they put up 14 hits in the game last night, 7 runs to show for it to beat the Mets 7-5. And again, they will wrap up that series coming up tonight there in Atlanta with Spencer Strider on the mound. And Strider, again, has had some really good starts this season, has been a key piece of this rotation. We'll see if he could do it again tonight with the Mets. But Braves-Mets Game 3, Justin Verlander on the mound tonight for the Mets. He's had an up-and-down season. We know how good of a pitcher he is, though. And so the Braves offense hopefully will be able to do what they did last night on Scherzer, tonight on Verlander. So the Mets pitching staff is strong, just a little inconsistent this year. And I think we see that at points during the season with every baseball team, just inconsistency because of the length of the season, the amount of games that are being played. So Braves-Mets Game 3 coming up tonight at 6:20. So news came out today. It is the we get all kinds of postseason honors this time of the year. The Alabama Sports Writers Association released the all-state softball teams. Now we'll take a look at names that were on first-team all-state, and we've got quite a few East Alabama names as we take a look at those now. In Class 6A from Oxford, junior Berkeley Mooney. She's a pitcher for the Yellow Jackets. She made first-team All-State for the for Class 6A. In Class 4A for White Plains, Leighton Arnold. They've got her listed as a utility player. She made first-team All-State. Savannah Smith of Piedmont, infielder, made All-State. She's a junior, also from Piedmont. Jenna Calvert, outfielder, senior as well, made the list. And we've got a Coach of the Year on the All-State list in Class 3A. Rachel Smith of Piedmont, Coach of the Year. Big honor there for Coach Smith. And then in Class 2A, Lily Henry as a designated hitter from Pleasant Valley, just a sophomore on 2A All-State. And so you see a junior from Oxford, sophomore from White Plains, junior from Piedmont, and a sophomore from Pleasant Valley, all first-team All-State. I mean, that shows just one senior from East Alabama on that list. That shows that we got some really good softball players, younger softball players who will be back on their respective teams next year. And so that's exciting. If you're a softball fan in East Alabama, there are quite a few younger players making All-State, so there's a lot to be excited about for next season. Also, some players making honorable mention as well. But congratulations to all those ladies for making the All-State team from the Alabama Sports Writers Association softball today. Baseball will be coming out very soon. Soccer, tennis, all the sports. They'll be releasing these All-State teams very soon. And in a couple of weeks, they will be naming the Player of the Year for all the classifications, and then the Mr. Baseball and everything. So that will be coming up soon as well. But love to see our East Alabama talent bringing home the postseason honors. And we had some of that with the All-State softball team. So congratulations again to those ladies. We have got a lot more to get to on the show today. Really excited about our interview coming up, as we will be talking with Andy Wittry from On3 Sports, on3.com. He is the NIL Sports Business Reporter. We'll get his thoughts on NIL. A lot of talk about that this week as coaches and administrators in Washington, D.C. Of course, the news with the video game coming out yesterday. All kinds of stuff to get to with him. We'll talk later on. We'll talk college baseball. We'll give you a list of super regionals and who we think will win. We'll do all that coming up. Stick around. More Southern Sports Now in a moment.
Here at Ted's, we are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welberg Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
East Alabama Now Local News has been bringing you the best local news coverage for 6 months. And now we're growing.
EAN News will be available to you 5 nights a week with new faces, new content, and coverage that is second to none.
We'll be bringing you the weather that matters to your neighborhood and to you. Rain or shine, you'll be in the know.
Sports always brings communities together, and EAN Sports will have coverage of all of our area events.
East Alabama Now, local news, new faces, same great coverage. starting 5 days a week, May 1st. EAN Local News, your news on your schedule.
We're back here on Southern Sports Now on this Thursday. Hoping you're having a great start to the day. Chase Robinson here with you, and we've talked a lot this week and really a lot lately about just what's going on in the NIL world, as news always dropping there. But we're going to take a deep dive into the NIL world now as we welcome on Andy Wittry of On3.com. He is the NIL and Sports Business Reporter. Andy, really appreciate you hopping on with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well, Chase. Thank you.
And I know it's a busy time, especially in your world, covering this ever-changing NIL and what kind of the business aspect of it looks like. And yesterday, I think a lot of people were seeing the news about the EA Sports game and perhaps now a boycott from the players. Talk to us about kind of that and what you're hearing from the players and what's going into to this decision of maybe we don't want to be a part of this.
I would say, first off, the players want the game back just as much as you, the fan, does, right? Because they're the ones that can actually not only play it, but also have the chance to be in the game, which it hasn't been out for, 9 years since the last version, NCAA 14. So these players now, if they're between, 18 and 23, they grew up playing this at, 9 to 12 years old, call it. So they want this game back just as much as you, the fan. So I know that a lot of, my mentions on Twitter have been pretty hostile, pretty toxic, pretty anti-player, frankly. And the same reason that those fans are so against this potential movement is the same reason I think that the game will be back on schedule, the same reason that most players will choose to opt into it, because they want to be into it. But it's a matter of, what is their value? Because there's not an official, there's not an NFLPA for college as it stands right now. So it's an individual decision between each player and maybe their agent, maybe their representation. But they've never had this process of, if I give my NIL rights, not just my likeness like before, but also my name, maybe my image. What is that worth for this game, that will be around in perpetuity? Is it worth the $500 that my colleague Pete Nakos has reported the players will receive, roughly $500? Is it worth more? If so, how much? So it's these decisions that they have to think about. So I would say that I don't know if this boycott will come to fruition, because right now there are no current players that I know of that have said, we are not going to do it because of this boycott. This is the College Football Players Association. It's a nascent organization. They're advocating on behalf of players. We actually saw some players on Twitter yesterday kind of push back and say, I just want the game back. I want to be in the game. So I think that it's healthy to have these discussions about what is market value, who is representing the players' best interests. But I think that some of this might be taken a little bit out of context as far as what's actually going on.
And is it a case where, and I saw the report there of $500 a player, is that something that as the game comes out would be more that the players would be able to make, do you know, or will it stay around that range?
Right now, as far as we know, my colleague Pete Nakos said that citing his source, the pool is roughly $5 million, according to his source, which would translate to call it, roughly $500. But this game, it is so desired right now in the market that details are very limited, because understandably, EA wants to keep things under wraps and make their announcements on their schedule. So sure, there's a chance that maybe after, especially the last 2 days in the conversation that we're having now. Is there a chance that maybe that model could change? Could they beef up the compensation? Perhaps. But I would expect that, maybe it's, is it $500 plus or minus, 200 or 300? Because as far as we know, with group licensing, every player will receive the same amount to opt into the game. Now, if you're the cover athlete, if you're someone who might get paid extra money to promote it on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, you could sign a separate deal perhaps just to promote it on Twitter that's separate from your actual NIL rights. And that could be a way that, if you're Caleb Williams at USC, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, you can make additional income through that route. But it's just a matter of, the one-size-fits-all approach as far as the rights and the compensation. We're thinking right now roughly 500, give or take. But, we don't know for sure.
We're talking with Andy Wittry of On3.com, covering NIL and sports business. the NIL Summit last week. Just from that and with talking with other athletes, what is the athletes' thoughts and just what's going through their mind with NIL right now? Obviously, we're a couple of years into this now and really still learning a lot about it. But what's kind of the athletes' reaction to everything with NIL?
I had one athlete that he said that NIL is almost in what he called like the newborn phase, right? I think they're becoming more comfortable with it. They're becoming smarter. They're realizing maybe the potential and the ceiling of what they can do with it. There is still some uncertainty, and this is not in like a doom and gloom aspect, but a lot of athletes told me, we're still kind of tiptoeing around, right? Walking on eggshells. What can we do? What can't we do? So there's still that underlying concern about, what are the rules? Where's that fine line? It's a gray area, as one athlete said. But I think they're becoming more aware. They're communicating with each other, which is important to see, hey, at your school, what's your collective like? How does it operate? What should I do at my school? So I think in many ways that they're relying on each other because there's a lot of folks that maybe you can't trust in this space, or at least, not know if you can trust them, right? What's real? How do you find verifiable, factual information? It's so tough in this era, right? So the chance to hear it from their peers, because your peer probably is not going to lie to you, right? If they go to a different school in your conference or a different conference, what's their incentive to not tell you the truth, right? Not that you're going to be sharing, hey, I've made down to the cent of, this much money, but just as far as, who can you trust? What's your collective like? What's your school doing for you? I think they're getting smarter, and those that are interested, because we know that not every athlete chooses to pursue NIL deals, but those that are, I think they're becoming more savvy and interested about how can I maximize my brand and my earning potential.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to go back to the video game for just a second, as far as what they're talking about with the money. Is this something that could cause division, of who's getting paid, who will have their name, image, and likeness, and that who doesn't? How would that work?
Just as far as who opts in, or what context?
Right, yeah. What's kind of the criteria of opting in, and is there a certain number who can opt in, and at one certain point nobody else can opt in?
At some point there will be a cutoff, right? Because I know that their schedule, I believe it's going to be summer of 2024. I think they're targeting July or August of next year, but there will be a cutoff date. They've contracted with One Team Partners as the company that will be handling the opt-in, right? The group licensing process, if you will. And so players, I believe next calendar year will have the chance to choose to opt in. And at some point, they're going to have to close that off, right? Just to release the game, to finish it up. So there will be that process about players, clicking a box or signing over their rights to participate in this game, similar to any sort of, could be jersey sales or trading cards where they've agreed to, I'm going to give up my rights for, this specific context. So that's the way it's going to work. It's maybe not a flashy process. It's going to be FBS players at this point. So we're talking about, maybe roughly up to 10,000. So, maybe not FCS at this point. We'll see what does it look like as far as if players choose not to. I think it might just be they might fill out the rosters with creative players, right, where it's truly random. It's not going to be, we know who that quarterback is. We just can't say his name due to the whole O'Bannon case that led to the last, 10 or 15 years and the game going away. They can no longer sort of, launder someone's likeness and not pay them for it. So if there are players that choose not to participate and they do have to replace them, they would be truly random, auto-generated players that can't be just a knockoff of a real-life player. But I do think, these players want this game back. Like I said, they want to be in it. Many have said that, the compensation might almost just be kind of like the cherry on top, right? They want the game back. They want to be in the game. Oh, and you're also going to pay me for it? That's a pretty good deal. And because, once again, the players, they were never in it officially for real last time. They were through their likeness, but not their names, right? It'd be QB number 7 or, wide receiver number 81. So there is a market for people buying this game without the actual player names. So I think the relative leverage on an individual basis is low of a player saying, well, I'm going to hold out for X amount of dollars. I said that there's maybe, could you count the number of players that have that kind of leverage on like one hand? Like, is it like Caleb Williams and maybe a few other quarterbacks or like Marvin Harrison Jr.? I think the relative leverage is small. unless things were to get so big on a large scale where it's a whole team or multiple teams saying, you know what, we want to sit down, try to bargain or negotiate for a better deal. And even that, I think, is probably pretty unlikely.
We're talking NIL with Andy Wittry of On3.com. We've got some coaches, some administrators up in Washington, D.C., trying to work on NIL things. I know you're Pete Nakos there from On3 is there covering that. But just from what you're hearing and what's going on there, will we see anything accomplished from this? What exactly is the mission this week for the coaches and administrators there in D.C.?
Depends on who you ask, right? If this is a lobbyist we're asking, they might say, yeah, you know what, we set up this meeting. We got Nick Saban on Capitol Hill. We got Greg Sankey. I mean, the commissioners like Sankey go there a lot, right? And it's not always publicized. So it depends on who you ask. Is this some administrative aide that's looking to, say, hey, we arrange this meeting, we arrange this photo op. But as far as what's tangible, what is our action item that we'll leave this week with? Being skeptical, I don't know what there's so much that's going on, and I think still some of the same talking points that aren't beneficial about. We had the University of Arizona's president Robert Robbins said this morning, he has a medical background, he's a doctor. I forget the exact metaphor, but he basically said that college athletics, is in the ICU, I believe, to play out this medical metaphor. And there's a lot of this doom and gloom narrative about how things are out of control. And, the wild, wild west metaphor was overused last fall, let alone in the summer of 2023. But this whole narrative about how, the sky is falling, things are awful. When you talk to athletes, as I did last weekend at the NIL Summit, most of them are pretty pleased, right? The chance to leverage their brands and to network and to build the interpersonal skills and to build their brand and set themselves up for whatever's next, if that's, athletic related or not. So I don't know what this, this is great that these are people that matter, the key decision makers. You have collectives, which is great because there should be collectives somehow that are represented in a congressional hearing and in this process to share their story and their approach. But I don't think that we're going to leave this week, the large scale royal we with some like roadmap to, hey, you know what, we've settled out the future of college athletics. This is the next 5 or 10 years and how things are going to go. I just think there's still enough disparate interests and people in charge that maybe aren't giving athletes a seat at the table to hear their story and share their story that I'm still skeptical, I think in a healthy way, of there's just not going to be a perfect solution that will really actually serve the athlete's best interests.
I know you had a piece on On3 talking with Trent Dilfer and just with other coaches you've talked to as well. You mentioned kind of talking with the players and what they think. As you talk to coaches about NIL, what are the kind of the feedback and thoughts you're getting from coaches on NIL?
It's funny because I think publicly, a lot might say the right things, whatever that means right now. I thought Trent's perspective was interesting because he's a first-time FBS head coach who last year was coaching, or last season was coaching high school. Someone that he was like, I only know this way, the way of recruiting and coaching since he was hired in December, so the last 7 months. And so I think for coaches, understandably, it's the intersection of NIL plus the transfer portal that I think is really their main concern. And, I would be counter with that's what the job is. That's what you get paid for. If it's so terrible, you know what? You can go coach high school or go coach D3. So I think the current issues really stem from the fact that this is, frankly, it's kind of a small scale version of professional athletics without the contracts or the union or the employment status to really to provide the, I don't want to say guardrails, I kind of hate that word, it gets overused, but to provide the framework of, everyone knows how we're operating and we know who's going to be in our roster. Because even right now, if there's athletes who graduate late this spring or this summer, they could enter the portal whenever. And so there's a chance that, your roster could still be in flux, into June and July and August. And so I think right now the issues is that people still want to pretend that this is, for the love of the game, this is some old school, amateurism mindset, when frankly the sport and this whole college athletics ecosystem has grown so much that you can't really play by those rules. And if you don't adapt, you're going to let either the National Labor Relations Board or the Supreme Court or Congress dictate how this thing's going to operate. And there's a pretty good chance if they do that, you're going to get stuck with some rules and provisions that you don't actually want. It may not even be best for the athletes, frankly, but you're no longer the one in charge if it's the NLRB or Congress making those rules for you.
We're talking NIL with Andy Wittry from On3.com. And, when this started a couple of years ago, everybody thought it was just going to be, a player teaming up with, a restaurant or a car dealership, whatever it was. But, it's turned into collectives and big money being involved. Just talk about what you've seen the last couple of years through NIL and just how it's evolved, how it's changed, to the point where, you go to on3.com and y'all have an NIL section and have all the, the amounts and what people are making. Just talk about how it's transformed over the last couple of years that we've, seen NIL.
It's funny, Chase, because I think that I'm almost becoming resistant to the acronym NIL, and it's not because of the rights or what it stands for or the benefits for players. It's because, college athletics needs these easy buzzwords or catchphrases or acronyms. And there's really so much to NIL that it's great for SEO, search engine optimization, and headlines. But there's really almost two different markets, right? There was someone at the NIL Summit this past week that I thought had a new metaphor, right? There's a lot of overused cliche ones like Wild Wild West. He had said that he had heard someone say there's real NIL and there's synthetic NIL. So kind of this, natural versus artificial difference, frankly. And the collective side of things, as you mentioned, we have a tracker. We have over 230 that have launched nationally. I've counted at least 30 that no longer exist in their original form due to a merger or an acquisition or just the ceasing of operations. And at the summit last week, one of the sponsoring companies, Influencer, they're a major player in the space, and they have marketplaces and they provide technology and back-end solutions. Their CEO and founder, Jim Cavale, he'd said that, 9 of our 10 largest business vendors by their spending are collectives, right? Not brands, not your local car dealer, not the local restaurant, but these groups of boosters that have formed their own entities. Sometimes they're nonprofit, sometimes they're for-profit, but those are 9 of their top businesses. And I believe the number was like 76% of compensation has come from collectives, according to Influencers data that they've tracked. That's not the whole market, but that's a snapshot of, call it maybe 30 to 40% of this overall market that gets reported that they've, funneled that through their reach and their business. And so really we're talking about kind of two different sorts of NIL. And it's the traditional, the brand deals are based on who you are as an athlete, an ambassador. What's your personality? What's your social media reach? That's one segment. The other one is frankly just how good are you at your sport? What school do you go to? Are the donors at your school, are they engaged in athletics and they have the income, the disposable income to want to spend and support those players? And so it's not anti that latter kind of compensation, but I think it probably benefits all of us, especially members of Congress and those making decisions, to acknowledge the two different maybe motives and types of NIL payments, because one of those is almost being acted as a player salary or, almost like a front office, a general manager for a college sports team. And so when you try to kind of mush those together and treat them as the same thing, there's really not a one-size-fits-all solution or maybe way to talk about things. Because there are disparities, right, between, maybe football and everything else, or football and basketball and everything else, or, female athletes versus male athletes, Olympic sports. All of these kind of operate a little bit differently within those two, the real versus artificial buckets, if you will. And so that's my thing, is that so much of this era is driven by the collective side of things, because the schools, based on current rules and even maybe state laws, can't pay the athletes directly. But that's kind of the way that things are heading. We don't know what that model will look like. Is it revenue sharing? Is it conferences or schools paying athletes directly? Who knows what that looks like, and whether the schools and the NCAA will be dragged there kicking and screaming, or if they'll eventually maybe see the writing on the wall and be a more proactive participant. But that's kind of the two different sides. And I think when people lose sight of the two different differences of NIL, things can get kind of muddled.
But originally when NIL, when name, image, likeness was created, it was started or supposed to be with the with the deals for your name, image, and likeness, and then the collectives came about, correct? Like it was originally designed for one thing but turned into something else?
It did. And there were collectives that popped up, I think maybe as of August or September of 2021. So it only took a month or two, frankly. Now, they didn't become mainstream for, was it 10 or 11 months when it started, hitting a critical mass. And then really this past winter, where it's like, hey, if we don't have a collective at our school, we are so screwed for this current era of athletics, and we need donors. And, is there a fear that the athletics department will lose donations and contributions because now it's going to NIL? So it didn't take long, and now we're kind of a critical mass where there's schools that have 3, 4, 5, in some cases, collectives that support athletes at a single school.
Always interesting stuff. So much happening in the NIL landscape. So we appreciate you, Andy, and your team there at On3 for doing a great job covering NIL. Andy Wittry, NIL and Sports Business Reporter there for On3. Thanks, Andy, for taking some time with us today. We'll talk to you again soon, but appreciate your time.
Of course, anytime.
Thank you. Andy Wittry doing a great job covering NIL and just ever-changing landscape of college athletics. You can check out on3.com. They've got an NIL page and a great team covering NIL, but we appreciate Andy Wittry for joining us this morning. We'll jump to a break, come back, talk some college baseball on the other side. We roll on this Thursday of Southern Sports Now in a moment.
Here at Ted's, we are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
EAN Sports is proud to bring you the best, most informative local sports content, and we want your help to be able to do that. If you have a story idea, a tip for our sportscast, or even a highlight clip you want to see on EAN Local Sports, send us an email, eansports23@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @EAN_sports, or you can send it to the EAN News Facebook page. EAN Sports, bringing you the local sports happening in your community.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today.
If you see some interesting weather phenomenon in your backyard here in East Alabama, send that to us. We would love to hear from you. Send that to us at the email address you see on your screen or through Facebook at EAN News.
Southern Sports Now here on this Thursday. Hope you're having a great start to your day as college baseball is here and upon us as we have reached the Super Regionals. And Alabama, of course, second on Wake Forest this weekend. Got 6 SEC teams in the Super Regionals. And looking forward to seeing some of this really good baseball. And I'm telling you, when you have Alabama in there who's playing really hot, you've got LSU who led the country most of the season, was number 1 in the country until last, 3 weeks of the year. You've got South Carolina in, Tennessee had an all-out battle to get there. They're playing really good baseball. Florida, it's the first time since 2018 they've been in the Super Regionals, so they're hungry and ready and wanting to get to Omaha. And so we've got some really, really good SEC baseball teams in the Super Regionals that I cannot wait to see play. And this is the SEC with 6 is the most of any conference in the country. You also, I failed to mention Kentucky a second ago. Kentucky in there as well, as a kind of a underdog team who's fought their way to get there. And so it's going to be a great weekend of Super Regionals. But to have 6 teams in Supers means that unless something just bizarre happens, the SEC is once again going to have a great field of the 8 teams in Omaha for the College World Series. Only 8 teams make it. Let's say all 6 SEC teams get there. That'll show just the power and dominance of the SEC. But Alabama at Wake Forest begins on Saturday. That'll be a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. You've got South Carolina and Florida. That begins tomorrow night. So 2 SEC teams playing each other, number 15 South Carolina, number 2 Florida. That is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. You've got Kentucky and LSU. So Kentucky's making the trip to LSU for the Super Regionals. Again, another SEC versus SEC. That is a Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. Tennessee goes to Southern Miss. So Southern Miss hosting a Super Regional for the first time in a number of years. That is a Saturday, Sunday, Monday Super Regional series. So this is Tennessee's 5th Super Regional appearance. South Carolina's 14th Super Regional appearance. They have been a baseball powerhouse for a number of years. LSU with their 16th Super Regional appearance. This is only Kentucky's 2nd time in the Supers. Florida's 11th time, but as I mentioned, the first time since 2018. And then Alabama's 4th Super Regional appearance. But I've talked about it before. I like the way Alabama's playing right now, and certainly hope that they can have a good showing in the Super Regionals. They do have the number 1 team in the country, the top seed in the NCAA tournament, Wake Forest this weekend. They're on the road, and so it's going to be a tough weekend. Wake Forest is good. We talked with Roger Hoover a couple of days ago here on this show, and he was sharing with us that Wake Forest is good up and down the lineup. They've got good pitching. There's a reason they're the top team in the country, and so Alabama has their hands full this weekend. But the way they're playing, I mean, we saw the way they played with Florida and the way they played in the SEC tournament. I mean, they are ready for the challenge and will take anybody coming their way. And so I'm looking forward to the Alabama-Wake Forest series. I think back to last year. Tennessee, number 1 team in the country. Notre Dame goes into Tennessee in the Super Regionals and wins the series. Notre Dame was like a 14, 15, 16 seed. I mean, nobody thought they even had a chance against the number 1 seed, Tennessee. And yet Notre Dame went in and took out the Vols and ended up going to the College World Series. I think back to that with this Alabama-Wake Forest series, because as the top team in the country, I mean, and we see it in basketball as well, these teams pulling the upsets. It's a little harder in baseball because you have the best of 3 series, but there's always a chance. And baseball's such a up and down sport that anything can happen any day. And so I like Alabama's chances of winning this series against Wake Forest, but we'll see how the pitching can do, what the depth is like heading into what's going to be a tough atmosphere there in Winston-Salem. But should be a great series coming up this weekend, and I'll be cheering on all 6 SEC teams this weekend in the Super Regionals, and I'd love to see a SEC field of in the College World Series. So I'm looking forward to watching some baseball this weekend, and we'll talk more of the Super Regionals coming up on the show tomorrow. It'll get going tomorrow at 11 a.m. Right when we go off the air tomorrow, you can flip on the TV and watch some college baseball. So that should be a lot of fun there in the Super Regionals. But we'll talk more college baseball coming up tomorrow. We will roll into our final segment coming up next. We'll talk about the new arena in Tuscaloosa. What's the holdup? We'll give you the answer coming up next.
Here at Ted's, we are excited to now be offering custom-made cabinets. With that in mind, we're changing our name to Ted's Floors and Beyond. The Beyond is going to encompass everything that we offer in addition to all of your flooring needs.
We've partnered with Welber Cabinet Company, who makes the highest quality cabinets in the industry.
So when you're ready for a complete kitchen or bathroom remodel, shop Ted's.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
Hi, I'm Dr. Brodney Sneed from both CARES and Direct Primary Care. Direct Primary Care is an exciting new model of medical care growing on both the East and West Coast. It's been recommended by Forbes and the American Academy of Family Physicians and others for individuals or small businesses with or without health insurance. The pure simplicity of a membership model streamlines the burden of medical care. It eliminates 60% of the overhead. That streamlining allows providers time to focus on patients with free, no copay, no deductible, unhurried office visits or telehealth visits with minimal waiting room time. It produces same or next day appointments and access by text or telephone during and after hours. It saves you from leaving work, wasting time and getting exposed in a waiting room, and the convenience and cost with barriers removed helps one avoid letting problems like a sore throat turn into an expensive ER or hospital visit for pneumonia. If you're interested, search the web for CARES Direct Primary Care.
Southern Sports Now on this Thursday. Hope you're having a great day. I'm Chase Robinson. Glad you're hanging out with us, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. Glad you are a part of the show. You can like, share, comment, and spread the word about Southern Sports Now each weekday, 10 to 11 a.m. here on East Alabama Now, YouTube and Facebook. You remember, it was over a year ago now that Greg Byrne announced that the University of Alabama would be having a new on-campus arena for basketball and gymnastics. What we've seen from that is nothing so far. The Board of Trustees will be meeting again this week, but apparently Byrne was asked about it last week at the SEC spring meetings, and his reply was, quote, "I know some people think this is an excuse. It's not. It's reality. The costs have gone up about $100 million in a year." So the February 2023 estimated cost was $183 million for the facility that will seat 10,036 for basketball. The site they're trying to build this is right there off of McFarland Boulevard in Tuscaloosa, right beyond the left field wall of Rhodes Stadium, which is home of Alabama softball. And again, this will be for basketball and gymnastics. So a lot will happen in this arena. In November 2022, President Stuart Bell said that the cost had risen 30 to 40% since they originally made the plans and looked at everything. So, they're looking for maybe matching gifts from alumni and donors to help make this possible, but the building costs keep going up, and I know a lot of Alabama fans want to see this new arena, want to see them out of Coleman Coliseum, and Coleman is not a fan-friendly arena, and you see these college arenas going to smaller, more you feel like you're sitting right by the floor. You're part of the action. You don't feel that way in Coleman Coliseum, and so Alabama really looking to kind of join on this new arena, but you would think that a university like Alabama would be able to make this happen soon, but with rising costs, they have not been able to. You can call it an excuse, Greg Byrne says, but in reality, he says it is the rising costs that is keeping them from building this arena. But as he originally said, estimated cost $183 million. I'm sure it is going up. I'm sure it probably is over $200 million when it's all said and done. So Alabama, has done their renovations for football. A lot of people said, well, why don't you focus on basketball too? You would do this for football. Well, I think they legitimately want this arena. There's no doubt Alabama needs and wants a new arena. It's just, are they willing to make it happen soon? We'll just have to wait and see. But it certainly is needed in Tuscaloosa. So that's the latest on that. If you've been wondering, where's this new arena? Well, it's not even started yet, and not even being thought about started anytime soon, I believe. So that's the latest there from Alabama. I want to remind you again about our Southern Sports Now mailbag. We'll dive into that coming up tomorrow, as we will each and every Friday. Here's how to submit questions: eansports23@gmail.com. Send us a Facebook message, East Alabama Now Facebook page, or shoot us a message there on our Twitter @EAN_sports. We'll open the mailbag every Friday here on the show, so go ahead and get those questions in now so we can get those on the show tomorrow. So be a part of our Southern Sports Now mailbag, again, every Friday. That's all the time we have for you today. Appreciate our guest, Andy Wittry, for joining us, talking NIL. Really enlightening there on the NIL front. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for watching, liking, sharing. We will do it again tomorrow, as we do each weekday at 10 a.m. Hope you make plans to join us then. We'll get you caught up on all things sports, from preps to pros, and as we do every day. Hope you have a great rest of your Thursday. We'll talk to you tomorrow for a Friday edition of Southern Sports Now.